Penguin Random House Audio presents The Cure for Burnout: How to Find Balance and Reclaim Your Life. This is the author, Emily Ballesteros. For my parents, who met every unconventional turn in my career with unwavering support. Introduction. The breakdown before the breakthrough. On a negative 20-degree day in the top ramen aisle of a downtown Chicago Walgreens, I finally swallowed my pride and called my parents. With silent tears and snot running into my scarf, I told them that I couldn't do it anymore. For 2 years, my life felt like a never-ending to-do list. From dawn until dusk, I sprinted from responsibility to responsibility, never feeling like I was doing enough. You know things are bad when you start looking forward to your debilitating migraines. Waking up with strobing vision and the sensation that someone was stabbing me in the eye gave me an alarming sense of relief. At least while I was lying on my cold bathroom floor trying not to throw up from the pain, I would get a short break from my all-consuming schedule. Sobbing in a drugstore, getting the side eye from other Chicagoans just trying to grab some snacks in peace was a personal low. I was in a very bad place. I wanted to quit my job, drop out of grad school, leave the frozen hellscape known as the Midwest, and just disappear. Just for a little while, I told my parents. Red flags. Red flags everywhere. In case you don't know, saying you want to disappear is a major red flag. I'd been running on fumes for 2 years. How could I be so early in my career and so incredibly worn out? Certainly, these were not the fun, freedom-filled 20s everyone raved about. Each morning, when my alarm sounded at 6 a.m., the first thing I'd feel was a heavy dread in my chest, quickly followed by racing thoughts about everything I needed to do that day. I would peel myself out of bed, throw on one of my wrinkled work outfits, and walk a mile through Chicago's often freezing temperatures to the train. Eyes vacant, zombie-like, with a giant pit in my stomach, I'd put one frozen foot in front of the other. I would spend my hour-and-a-half commute to work each day catching up on reading for my graduate program and smearing makeup on the bags under my eyes. Professionally, I conducted myself like your run-of-the-mill people-pleaser, with complete disregard for my own limits. I didn't believe I had the authority to set boundaries, so I'd say yes to every request that came my way, regardless of who was asking and what they were asking for. I would find myself in meetings at all hours of the day, on committees I didn't even know our company had, taking on tasks nobody else wanted, all to demonstrate that I was reliable at any cost. I wanted to prove myself, advance in my career as fast as possible, and perhaps, most important, I wanted everyone to like me. As a result, I prioritized performance over everything else: my health, my relationships, my personal life and interests, and I was one hell of a performer. But it came at a price. At the end of my reverse commute back to the city each night, I would sprint, in snow boots, not recommended, to my 6 p.m. class. With shin splints, bone-deep exhaustion, and disbelief that the day wasn't over yet, I would use my last 2 brain cells to take notes. After class, I'd make the mile walk home, eat a top ramen, do my homework, doom scroll on my phone, and fall into a fitful sleep, already anxious about what awaited me in the morning. Ideally, Saturday and Sunday would have been my time to rest, but instead of recuperating, each weekend I let my guilt, and other people's demands, take the wheel. Friends with good intentions and bad timing invited me to social gatherings across town. I didn't know how to say no without feeling like I was letting them down, so I said yes and just hoped I'd find another time to rest. Spoiler alert, I usually didn't. As much as I valued my friendships, any invitation felt like a burden, simply because I was desperate to be at home catching up on sleep instead. Forget going to the gym, enjoying my youth, or reading for pleasure, I was just grateful if I made it through the week. For years, regardless of whether it was a good day or a bad day, it was a busy day. Contrary, though, to this dread that I felt in my day-to-day life, from the outside, it appeared that I was doing pretty well for myself. I had a job in my field of interest, corporate training and development, and was earning my master's degree in industrial organizational psychology. In the name of achievement, I had stuffed my schedule to the brim, and it had awarded me a life that looked great on paper. I felt like a duck, calm on the surface and paddling my feet like hell underwater to stay afloat. But the thing I've come to understand is it doesn't matter what your life looks like, it matters what it feels like. And mine felt like crap. How I stumbled into the burnout spotlight. On that winter day in Chicago, my parents, who very much believe in tough love, told me that I was strong, this was temporary, and I needed to keep going. Now, obviously, I would have liked to hear them say, "Don't worry about it, just drop out and we'll support you financially forever." But what they gave me was the shake back to reality I needed in order to recognize that I, and I alone, had to pull myself out of my downward spiral. No one was going to do it for me. I believed them when they said I could do it, but I was also struggling to keep my head above water. I was willing to keep going, but I knew I couldn't keep going the same way I had been. I could no longer be a bystander when it came to my burnout. Reading an article here and there about work stress or fatigue was not making my situation better. I needed a solution, so I resolved to create it myself. I wiped away my tears, told my parents I loved them, and marched home with my ramen. I knew this was the start of something new, but that night, I just needed to eat my noodles curled up under a blanket and get some sleep. After researching my symptoms, everything from having nightmares about work to crying in conference rooms, it turned out that this prolonged mental and physical exhaustion was burnout, and I checked every box. I was lethargic, stressed 24/7, and disengaged from the things that normally brought me joy. I had been worn down before, during finals season, in a busy period at work, while dealing with personal tragedies, but it was never this hopeless exhaustion with seemingly no end in sight. I'll dive into the cultural and scientific background on burnout later, as well as the constellation of factors that contribute to it, but suffice to say that at the time, my burnout simply felt like one hard day after another. At first, it was difficult to take my burnout seriously because everyone around me seemed to be experiencing it too. And not only was it prevalent, it was trendy. Sit down at any bar and within 10 minutes you'll hear people trying to one-up each other about how overworked and exhausted they are. I haven't taken a lunch in years. I'd be lucky to get out of the office by 7 p.m. If I took a vacation, the department would fall apart. Too many people are normalizing their suffering. In the weeks that followed my desperate phone call, I began asking my network, especially the people whom I admired, how they managed their busy lives and avoided long-term exhaustion. In return, I got blank stares, uncomfortable laughs, or unconvincing platitudes. Because I worked in professional development, I felt confident that someone, somewhere, had to have created a simple, easy-to-enact solution for this problem. I searched online spaces and came upon only outdated websites. I scoured social media, found abysmal results, and developed an unhealthy resentment towards recommendations to meditate or try yoga. I won't yuck someone else's yum, but these two practices really don't resonate with me, which is my nice way of saying they fill me with rage. The resources I did find were out of touch with the modern demands of the virtual workforce. Like, say, the suggestion to leave work at work with no clear plan for how to cauterize work from life in a time when our work is literally in our home and on the phone that's attached to our hand, and riddled with obvious advice. Get enough sleep. Or they recommend that I cut something out. Quit the job, pause the degree, be ruthless about saying no to new opportunities. But the problem was, I wanted to keep doing everything I was doing. I liked my colleagues and my job. I wanted this degree and was interested in the material. Independently, each element was fulfilling enough not to give up. But combined, it was too much for anyone to complete comfortably. And at the end of each day, I didn't wish for a different life with different goals. I just wished it wasn't so hard. I wanted to keep doing what I was doing without feeling like it was taking everything from me. When I'm faced with a problem, my first step is almost always to do some reconnaissance. So, to start, I spoke with scores of other burned-out individuals about their struggles and what kind of solutions they were looking for. After conducting extensive interviews and diving into research about burnout management, patterns and solutions began to emerge. The same topics kept coming up: mindset, personal care, time management, boundaries, stress management, as areas that either helped prevent burnout or made people.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?